Good morning, everybody. It is 9 o'clock. We're streaming here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. Thanks for joining us here. What is, for many of you, a long weekend, the beginning of maybe a half day and into the long weekend. So we wish you well. We're going to get to your weather in a little bit. Want to give you a live picture right now of Minority House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries holding the floor there in Washington, D.C., speaking against Donald Trump's agenda, the One Big Beautiful Bill, after clearing a major hurdle overnight. This is going to be up for a final vote very soon. He is definitely over 3 hours of speaking there. I understand that the House, only the speakers can have an unlimited time speaking, but right now he's on 3 hours. I read that the record was just over 8 hours of holding the floor and holding up any kind of debate. So with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries now coming up on 4 hours as the House debates this measure, Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Passed the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Republicans grinding push to pass President Trump's massive tax and spending bill hitting a hitch in the House, where GOP holdouts held up a procedural vote for hours overnight before finally voting to move ahead. House Speaker Mike Johnson fielding calls from President Trump all night.
And said, who else needs to have a discussion? I'm ready to get on the phone.
The president posting after midnight, what are the Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove? MAGA is not happy and it's costing you votes. Earlier in the day, he met with holdout Republicans at the White House looking to ease concerns over the bill's spending, adding substantially to the deficit.
I think we got some good information from the president.
Speaker Johnson saying he wants to avoid ping-ponging the bill with the Senate so the House can't make any changes, even though conservatives don't like Senate adjustments to clean energy credits and the Medicaid overhaul. While moderate Brian Fitzpatrick was ultimately the only Republican voting no on the procedural step, along with all Democrats, who slammed federal aid cuts projected to cost more than 11 million Americans their health insurance.
The largest cut to health care in our history, the largest transfer of wealth from working families to the billionaire class.
The extraordinary things in this bill are so important for the American people.
GOP leaders adamant the bill's key components extending the Trump tax cuts while funding defense and deportations. And the president, who wants it all done, will prove too popular for Republicans to turn down.
It's the largest tax cut in American history.
In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
All right, as promised here at 9:03, we need to talk about your weather because a lot of you are looking to the skies and planning and driving or flying to your destination for a long weekend. If you are headed out to the beach, this is Myrtle Beach. Looks pretty nice, calm. For now. For now, he says.
Sorry.
For now. All right, how about this? Closer to home, right here, Freedom Beach Club, Boat Club, Lake Norman.
Yay!
Looks like there's a little bit of a breeze. One fella getting ready
looking really
out there
nice.
on the dock.
Gassing up the boats.
Nice. Way to go.
None of my friends.
We've been saying it.
Yeah,
I don't
calling
have-
out boat people.
I
If
don't
y'all
have friends.
if we have
That's it.
viewers, if you have a boat, let us know.
Let us
That's
know.
it.
We can take a remote live impact news there.
great.
On the boat.
Live impact
maybe?
on the lake?
Yeah.
Hello?
I did propose the live impact news boat and it got denied. So we'll try again next
We could try
quarter.
again.
Hey, we can only
Yeah.
hope.
We have
With
the
mo-
tracker.
We could pull
Yeah.
together and get a John boat.
Yeah, I think so. That would be nice.
A what
A
boat?
John boat.
A John boat.
Yeah.
Pontoon.
Yeah, I mean, we
Come
got to
on.
pull a little bit more together to get a pontoon, but
I was gonna say maybe we start with raft, inflatable raft, and then we'll work our way up from there.
All right.
All right. So there's a few things I'm going to talk about here. Number one, we're going to talk about the holiday, the July 3rd forecast that everyone's looking forward to. Just kidding. The July 4th forecast that everyone's looking forward to, and the big changes we have heading into the weekend. So we have been mentioning a chance for some sort of tropical development off the Florida coast to the Carolinas. It's almost more off the Carolina coast, and I don't think this is going to last very long, but things are indicating for a changing forecast that's not good for the beach. Regardless, rip currents, I think, are going to be bad starting as early as tomorrow as that system starts to develop. But let's get to the near term. Let's focus in on the good. Sorry for the maniacal laughter, Myrtle Beach, but things are changing. I couldn't help myself. 91 to 93. That's our general highs today, and we're going to have a real feel up to about 96, 97, which, by the way, Lily and I dug up these stats. June 26th is the last time we actually were feeling like the triple digits here in Charlotte.
okay.
So, yeah, it's been a little bit. And we had that little hot stretch where we had all of our triple-digit heat indices, including one at 110. Be gone. We don't need you again. Our heat streak, I'm not too proud to say that we were wrong. We hit 90 degrees because we did mention here in the Impact Studio, this might have been covering my own derriere, that, hey, if the clouds do break earlier, we will hit 90. And what happens? The clouds, yep, you got it. And hey, c'est la vie. Now today is going to be day 15, and this is also just building on some of the stats that we put together yesterday. That moves us to the 5th longest streak over the last 10 years. Now, the longest all time is 33. The top 10 list actually ranges from 33 days to 18 days. So I think we're going to be just shy of that because of what happens on Sunday. Sunday, we're going to try not to hit 90 degrees yet again, but I have been fooled before, everybody. Our Sky Show Spectacular. Anyone going to this in the room?
Not me.
probably not.
No,
Probably not
we
now.
got no naysayers here.
Okay, 0%. But it's great. If you've ever seen,
okay.
has anyone ever seen this? I saw it from a
Negative Ghost
distance
Rider.
once.
I saw him from a distance.
From a
Yeah.
distance.
Yeah. From a distance.
Okay, Bette Midler.
Okay, you saw what I was throwing down. This is claimed. We cannot say this here personally, but I thought it was pretty cool from like 5 miles away, whatever it was. That's how big it is. That one of the best fireworks displays that we have here in the area. So it's a little weird this year. It's usually on the 4th. You're like, what's going on? Well, they split it up. So there are 3 games here, and then they immediately turn around and they go to Jacksonville for the last 3 games. So they garnered some deal with the jumbo shrimp. Maybe for some shrimp, that would make sense. I would do that deal too. And then tonight's forecast, 72. And I'm your stat man. The last time we had a below average low was June 3rd. We were 60 degrees that morning, and that was the coldest of the month. We mentioned earlier this week that June finished with the 5th warmest set of lows in June history for Charlotte. We've actually had 22 of the last 30 mornings hit 70 degrees or greater. And what's interesting about that is we range in the 60s. We still have an average low of 69 until July 5th. So it's really been our lows that have been well above normal compared to our highs. It's been still an above average high, don't get me wrong, but just letting you know that that's been a really continual trend. That's usually one of the biggest changes in climate change as well. Moving on to the 4th of July, very patriotic in the background. I don't know how you're spending it. Let's put a bookmark here.
We're here.
What are you guys doing?
We're here.
We're here.
Jane
Here.
and I are holding it down.
Yep.
Okay, well, I will be here technically, but then I'll go home and I'm going to beat my friends at cornhole. That's my plan. That's my plan.
American way.
Meanwhile, 2 of our best friends beat us every time, but not tomorrow.
Not
Not
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Oh,
Tomorrow
for the
I will
record.
gain my losing independence and finally beat them. That's right, talking about you, Mike and Molly, just like the show, and they don't like it when I reference
yeah,
that.
that's nice.
And afterwards, you gonna do any grilling or anything like that, or no?
I probably will not. I only have a little Coleman grill that's for tailgating. So unless I want to put that out in my garage,
You could
so
do
the
it
car
here.
park, I guess I could.
You could do it here.
Yeah.
do it here.
And-
Who's
Yeah.
gonna stop me?
Right.
Nobody.
Everyone's got it.
Everyone's
It's me and Jane.
Yeah. Just you two?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bips and Bob,
We'll
maybe a
have
couple
a-
extras, but
Well, I
few
will.
carrots.
I will be
Everybody
here
tell
at
us
9.
no.
I will be here at 9.
Okay.
So.
Do you want
All
an early
so
dog?
you can start our grilling.
Yeah, can you do it inside? Is that's probably
The
frowned
Coleman
upon?
grills do
No,
allow-
I'm
that's
just
the
joking. I
beauty
think
of it.
literally
Yeah.
we had to verify saying don't do that.
Don't do
Lily, what about you?
I personally will not be grilling, but I will be at the lake. So I'm
Oh,
Winner.
winner.
All right, well,
Do you
Lily
have a
comes
friend
in.
with a boat.
Makes us all look lame.
Yes, she says.
All right, well, that's
nice.
awesome. So, great day for the lake. So, again, boat friends, we're still looking for you. 4th of July forecast will be a little bit warmer. I think that we could hit a range about 92 to 94 across the area. 92 on Saturday. Sunday. I'm trying again. If you do recall, 90 degrees has, I'm going to say it again, pain in the derriere. First off, we kept on calling for 90 and it wouldn't hit 90. And now when we're calling that it's not going to hit 90, it hits 90. Come on.
Come on.
What's going on? All right, but at least we're transparent about it. And the reason why we're going 88 is for the same reason, the cloud cover. And this cloud cover is actually coming from what could be named Chantal or some sort of leftover tropical system. But if that cloud cover doesn't really reach us or it breaks in the afternoon, then we could be right back to 90 degrees. But right now, we're going 88 as we did for the previous system. Now let's talk about this. This little oval here was at one point when we started on Monday, a 20 to 40% chance, and it was either side of Florida. Now it's smack dab from Florida up the Georgia shoreline to South and North Carolina. It's in this zone. We now have a 60% chance this could turn to a tropical depression or a tropical storm. Now, this would, I think, be a subtropical storm, and we'll get to that. And we're going to raise your weather IQ because we can't turn it off. That's what we do here at WCNC. Check this out. This is really cool. I actually was having a lot of fun because I got to bust out some of my old tropographics, dusted them off physically.
Nice.
So here's later on tonight. 11 p.m. Nothing really happening. All right, let's see what's going on here. Oh, nope. Oh, the winds are starting to curve. Okay, so what you're seeing here is actually a front and a low starting to move over. This is a very broad circulation. Once this becomes a closed low, then we're going to look for the wind speeds for this to be a criteria of a tropical depression and or a tropical storm. So right here at 10 p.m. on Friday, we're also starting to see a little bit of green. This is not radar. This is a wind graphic. And watch what happens going forward. Ooh, seeing more
Stronger
green.
swirly.
Yeah, see that swirly? See how it's tightening up?
Yes.
And the one thing that fights against this is wind shear. Wind shear is the change of wind speed and direction. That, once it gets a little bit closer to the Carolina shoreline, I think could shred it a little bit. So it might not look as pretty, but watch this. We go a little bit further. Oh, seeing more green. And also, it's still a little bit more oblong. When you have an oblong center, that's another sign of it being a subtropical storm. So that's the indications here. This is 1 p.m. on Saturday. So at this point, winds are picking up. Umbrellas that you're forced to use instead of tents at Myrtle Beach, that isn't a complaint. It is. But as you get a little bit closer to your Saturday afternoon, the winds are physically picking up along the shoreline, at least gusts to 20. And if you've been on the beach with gusts or sustained winds at 20, that sand hurts. That's not great.
That's not fun.
So this is 7 p.m. at this point, and notice the eastern side. A typical tropical storm or a hurricane is going to have its strongest winds around the center. Whenever it's a little bit further away from the center, that is a subtropical storm because it doesn't have all of the tropical criteria. So this right here, as far as the wind gust graphic alone, shows every pointings to a chance of this being a subtropical storm. Because if you look at the key in the top, anything in green is representing a 35 mile per hour wind gust. Anything in the red is up to a 50 plus. And then all we need is 39 for this to be a tropical storm, baby. And as it gets a little bit closer, heading into your Sunday, that's Sunday morning at 2 o'clock, we are now starting to see this starting to press in. So we could potentially, yet again, have a tropical system that doesn't last a day named and make landfall. So this will have impacts with some gusty winds. I think winds are a minimal impact, but we could also have a lot of rain. Here's another example. Another shout out. Lily made this morning. She's becoming a beast at these surface fronts.
Nice.
So that front that we saw earlier, that dives to the south. That also has a low attached to it. But whenever you also have dashed lines and fronts attached to a front, attached to a low, that is another feature of a subtropical storm if it potentially is doing that. So you will have that low actively over that. The worst case scenario, the one that doesn't pan out, is this is just a low pressure system. It rains and it's windy. It just doesn't get a name. That's the only difference. And we'll show you again, showing the circulation here. This time with the rain, you really start to see it organized, I think, on Saturday night. That's where you see the tightest circulation. I think it breaks up right before landfall. But plain and simple, you have a chance for a landfalling system on 4th of July weekend here in the Carolinas. And right now it looks to be anywhere between Myrtle Beach and Wilmington for the absolute center circulation landfall. But since the winds are further to the east, it would impact areas really heading up to Oak Island and as far north as Hatteras. And the quick movement of this system could potentially not ruin beach days, but it's still not great with the precursor winds and the rain that comes with it. Chantal, as you mentioned, is the next name on the list. After that's Dexter, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So breaking down everything I just said, explaining what a subtropical storm is actually kind of a nightmare. This is the best case I've actually been able to probably explain in my career because it shows all the makings of it. So for a subtropical storm, the strongest winds are away from the center. Check. Fueled by upper dynamics. That's a front. That's a different things. Check. Warm water, got it. So everything is checked for a potential subtropical storm. The only way that this changes is if the center circulation winds go more towards the center, or you don't have that little dash line, that trough that's attached. Rip current forecast right now, we officially upgraded to a high right around Oak Island. This is kind of the topography that there's just a better environment for rip currents. It's actually Myrtle Beach up to around the Oak Island area that has the most rip current deaths. And yeah, Lily, let's bring this up because we updated this yesterday. Check this out. This is staggering. For the coastal Carolinas, since the year 2000, there's been 192 deaths from rip currents. That is more than tornado, flood, lightning, wind, and tropical deaths combined of 116. So it just shows how pertinent it is to be aware of this. Most people are ones that aren't locals. They don't know about this. So we always tell you about that. You have to swim parallel to the shore. If you swim parallel to the shore, you have to have this mentally in your head, because if you're just out there having a good time and it's like, what's happening? If the red flag or the yellow flag is waving, then you know that, hey, I need to be at least in my mind that there's a chance for rip currents, because then if at least you are mentally sound, okay, I'm getting pulled out, I'm going to swim parallel. It's the ones that aren't mentally prepared, that know about this beforehand, those are the ones that panic. So if you go to the beach, you just got to keep this in the front of your mind, not the back of your mind. Okay, now we continue with the forecast. Your 7-day forecast will resume to pretty much just summertime status once we get done with this maybe Chantal storm, or at least tropical depression number 3. 7-day forecast brings us back to the lower to the even mid-90s, and those daily chances for rain and tropical air return. So that air you can wear and the hair you can't wear by next week, something we're so familiar with. But that's why it's also so nice that we literally only have a spotty rain chance today, so likely staying dry, and no chances for storms for your Independence Day.
All right. I feel like I've got that already anyway. hair you can't wear,
Yeah,
hair
no,
you can wear. You know, come May, it's like it's over.
put it up.
I just wave the white flag
Yeah.
and just
Put it in a
try to
clip and
go
call
with
it a
it.
day.
And as a short-haired male, you might be like, I was like, Chris, you don't understand. Once I get to like a 3-week mark, my hair's super poofy. So I understand that I have to use a larger quantity of gel.
Yes.
And then midway through our shows, I have to use more of it because it like eats it. So I understand on a smaller scale, ladies and long-haired gentlemen.
All right, thank you for empathizing. So
Of course.
Myrtle Beach today, right now, looks pretty.
Soak it up while you can. They can't
For
hear you, but
now.
soak it up while you can.
Full circle. Sorry, I had to do it again.
had to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
This is a developing situation. This is why you continue to watch it. But the fact that it's Thursday now and you have a 60% chance, by the way, in the weather world, 60% is likely. And everything points to it. We showed a lot of evidence there that is really backing it up because guess what? The other 2 storms that turned into tropical storms had far less indications than this one is already showing.
All right, Sunday, probably no bueno. But we'll
I
see.
think it's cloudy here. You might have some rain specifically east of I-77, but the way this usually works is you have morning rain, then it starts to stretch away. So I wouldn't discount it, but I'm telling people if you're like, do I want to do it Saturday or do it Sunday? Saturday. I'm making the
Saturday.
decision for you.
Okay.
Because why would you take the chance? Unless you want cloudy conditions with rain for, I don't know what you're doing. Where you need that. Maybe for photos, I guess, Sunday morning. But you can try that on Saturday as well. But yeah, it is. Do your outdoor plans Saturday. There's no chance for rain on that day as well. It's very similar to the 4th of July, which is great. Just more clouds by the end of the day.
All right, very good. Got to come up with some plans.
I'm gonna catch you by the pool, I guess.
Oh, pool's got a big crowd.
Also looking for pool friends. All right.
Yeah, pool friends, boat friends, you name it. We need them. All right, thanks, Chris Mulcahy.
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Here in the Live Impact studio at 9:20, it is the July 4th Eve holiday. Everyone's starting to celebrate and get into that festive mood. We will keep tabs on the events and happenings around town. I know there is a closure around Uptown because of fireworks that are going to be set up there. So that's something to keep in mind as you make your way out to out and about. Heading into Uptown and all our visitors to the Charlotte area. We welcome you. Okay, so House Minority Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, now 4 hours into his speech. The binder that you see on the podium, this is actually another binder. So
He's only halfway through. Looks like it. There's still got
right.
It looks like only halfway through that binder he's got in front of him.
Exactly.
We got ways to go
Curly,
here.
Oh my goodness. So I mean, the thing is, the final vote will happen. After Mr. Jeffries does his speech, but he can speak there for an unlimited time. The record set in 2021, and that was 8.5 hours long, the longest House floor speech set by Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy from California in opposition to then President Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan. So Speaker Jeffries here about almost at the halfway mark of that record-setting speech. Just into 4 hours. He started at around 5 this morning.
Okay.
Saw pictures of pizza boxes right outside Speaker Mike Johnson's office.
I wondered how that works.
Yeah, they work overnight.
They
And
get pizza, they get,
yeah,
DoorDash
they
to
do
them.
it just how you were in college, staying up all night, trying to get things done. The president spending most of the night working the phones with lawmakers, trying to turn some of those no's into yeses. But we expect a vote to happen by end of day.
Yeah.
It is after Jeffries does finish wrapping up his hours-long remarks. Also breaking right now, the U.S. adding 147,000 jobs to the economy in the month of June. So that also putting to rest perhaps a slowdown of the American workforce. Maybe some people were concerned about that, but there were jobs added last month. All right, let's go back to Jeffries and go ahead and listen in to his remarks as we're taking this live on Live Impact News on WCNC.
The House Committee on Energy and Commerce. With Medicaid expected to bear the brunt of these reductions. Their words, not our words. Nearly 30% of Medicaid enrollees are Hispanic Americans, and for many families across the country, Medicaid is their only access to health care. Slashing Medicaid would have serious consequences, particularly in rural and predominantly Hispanic communities, where hospitals and nursing homes are already struggling to keep their doors open. Mr. Speaker, these are members of the House Republican Conference warning about the devastating impacts of this one big, ugly bill. It goes on to say that the House Committee on Education and the Workforce has been tasked with cutting $330 billion where federal aid for higher education, such as Pell Grants, may be a target for reductions. Once again, let me park right there parenthetically to make the observation. This bill also assaults higher education in the United States of America. That's a disgrace. And Mr. Speaker, members of the House Republican Conference predicted that that would occur. Their words, not our words. House Committee on Education and the Workforce has been tasked with cutting $330 billion where federal aid for higher education, such as Pell Grants, may be a target for reductions. Hispanic students make up a significant share of Pell Grant recipients, many of whom are first-generation college students, striving for a better future for themselves, their families, and our nation. If we are serious about empowering the next generation and strengthening our workforce, we must facilitate and not undermine opportunities that help students succeed. Finally, the House Committee on Agriculture has been directed to cut $230 billion. And then, Mr. Speaker, our Republican colleagues go on to write, while we fully support efforts to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse, by the way, that's all fake, we support a federal government that's effective, that's efficient, that's equitable, that eliminates waste, fraud, and abuse. That's not what this bill is all about. But it goes on to say, while we fully support efforts to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse, we must ensure that assistance programs such as SNAP remain protected. I mean, I'm just confused. Remain protected as nearly 22% of Hispanic families rely on this critical program as a temporary safety net during difficult times. And then this letter concludes, written to you, Mr. Speaker, by the Congressional Hispanic Conference. Hispanic Americans are the future of the Republican Party. I'll reserve judgment on that statement. As House Democrats, we're going to fight for every single community in the United States of America, including the Hispanic community. Every single community. We want every single community to experience the good life, to afford to be able to live the good life. That's what we want. For every single community, good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement. That's what we want for every community. But the Congressional Hispanic Conference, they write, in closing to you, Mr. Speaker, that these Hispanic Americans are closely watching to see if we will govern in a way that honors their values and delivers results. just to make sure that appropriate authorship is conferred, I'm going to enter the names of the signatories to this extraordinary letter. Mr. Speaker, Tony Gonzalez, Nicole Maliatakis, Monica de la Cruz, David Valadeo, who represents more Medicaid recipients than any other member of Congress, Juan Ciscomani, Rob Bresnahan, what a beauty, James Moylan, Kimberlyn King Hines. They all signed this letter. And the question that many Americans have to ask right now is that after signing a letter indicating your commitment, Mr. Speaker, to protecting Medicaid and SNAP and access to affordable higher education through Pell Grants, how is it possible that, Mr. Speaker, some of our Republican colleagues will turn around and devastate Medicaid, devastate supplemental nutritional assistance, and devastate the ability of Hispanic communities to achieve the type of upward mobility, in part through higher education, that is talked about in this letter? That letter was written in February. And then we go to March. Can I talk about it?
Talk about it. We're here for it.
I mentioned, Mr. Speaker, I'm here to take my sweet time on behalf of the American people. And so on March 9th, there's a letter that's written to Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith, Mr. Speaker. By my count, 21 Republicans signed this letter. And it's about the importance of the clean energy economy in the United States of America. I would assume, based on this letter, that all of the signatories to this particular piece of correspondence are now horrified by the attack on clean energy jobs, and the clean energy economy in this one big ugly bill. But we'll see shortly, because everyone is going to have to go on record. But in this particular letter, written on March 9th, Mr. Speaker, 21 members of the House Republican Conference write to Chairman Jason Smith. Countless American companies are utilizing sector-wide energy tax credits, many of which have enjoyed broad support in Congress to make major investments in domestic energy production and infrastructure for traditional and renewable energy sources alike. Both our constituencies and the energy industry alike remain concerned about disruptive changes to our nation's energy tax structure. With all this in mind, the letter continues toward the end. We request that any proposed changes to the tax code be conducted in a targeted and pragmatic fashion that promotes conference priorities without undoing current and future private sector investments, which will continue to increase domestic manufacturing, promote energy innovation, and keep utility costs down. I mean, the language that was chosen there is pretty interesting, but the translation is protect the clean energy economy. That's what this letter was all about. Written by
Well, that happened. 9:34 is the time. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are going to try to get that feed back up from the House floor, where Minority Speaker Hakeem Jeffries is holding it down there 4+ hours now, and on his second binder that started around 5 o'clock this morning. And he said, "Can we talk about March?" So he's just going to slow walk this debate into that final vote, which is expected to happen sometime today. We're also waiting for a special guest, but we will be at 9:40, and that conversation will be about budgeting for your weekend food plans and your gatherings. And that's going to be a good conversation. So we're also waiting for that. In the meantime, it looks like we have Mr. Jeffries back up here. Let's take it on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
We know that there's an all-of-above approach that is underway right now, but we support wind and solar energy, renewable energy, because renewable energy is cheaper energy. And cheaper energy means reducing the high cost of living for everyday Americans. That's what we as House Democrats support. And yet, I'm perplexed because this letter was written, but the one big ugly bill represents an extraordinary and unprecedented assault on clean energy and cheaper energy in the United States of America. Mr. Speaker, I asked the question, what are those 21 Republicans going to do when it comes to voting for this one big ugly bill? And then we've got another letter in April. So we've got a February letter, a March letter, an April letter. Quite elegant with these letters. April 14th, 2025, this is correspondence written by 13 House Republicans, Mr. Speaker. Written to you and Steve Scalise, Majority Leader, written to Tom Emmer, the Majority Whip, and written to Brent Guthrie, the Chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee. It says, as members of Congress who helped deliver a Republican majority, many of us representing districts with high rates of constituents who depend on Medicaid, we would like to reiterate our strong support for this program. By the way, a program that the one big ugly bill now will cut and devastate, gut, Mr. Speaker, by almost $1 trillion. In this letter, 13 Republicans say we would like to reiterate our strong support for this program that ensures our constituents have reliable health care. Balancing the federal budget must not come at the expense of those who depend on these benefits for their health and economic security. Mr. Speaker, that's their words, not our words. And then this bill makes an extraordinary declaration. And I think it's important for us to understand who led this bill. David Valadao. These are just facts, Mr. Speaker. Publicly issued letters. David Valadao, Don Bacon, Jeff Van Drew, Rob Bresnahan, Juan Ciscomani, Jen Kiggins, Young Kim, the usual suspects. Robert J. Whitman, Nicole Maliatakis, Nick LaLota, Andrew R. Garbarino, Jeff Hurd, and Michael V. Lawler. By my count.
All right, friends, at 9:40, we are going to take a break right now and put a pause in House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries debating over 4 hours now on the House floor as they are on the final steps here before voting on President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. With the 4th of July weekend upon us, though, many families are feeling the pinch of rising food costs as they plan holiday barbecues and gatherings. But there's actually an app to help shoulder the burden, help shoppers potentially cut their grocery bill in half. So joining us right now is Tyler Simmons. He's the VP of Revenue for Flash Food. It's a free app connecting consumers with fresh groceries at up to 50% off retail prices. Tyler, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thanks, Jane. Happy to be here.
So what are you seeing in terms then of how this is affecting families, especially during holiday seasons this July 4th weekend, these rising costs of food?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's focused on the price of groceries right now, and it's a hard thing to navigate for many families. And so we developed Flash Food to help families access food at a discount. And that is food that may be nearing its best by date, but still perfectly good to eat. So we work with grocery stores to sell that food at a discount. People can buy it through our app and go to the store to pick it up.
Okay, so how does that work then if I wanted to do that today, download the app and then walk into the grocery store?
Yeah, so you can go to the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, and look up Flash Food. Download the app. It's free to download, and you can browse the stores around you. We have a few stores in the Charlotte area, but we're actively looking to add new ones as well. But you can see what stores are near you, see what they have available, and purchase the goods that they have listed, whether it be fresh produce, meat, or just general grocery items, typically discounted at about 50%. Once you make that purchase, you have to go into the store to pick up the items yourself.
That sounds like a really good deal. And why are savings up to 50%?
I mean, it varies by grocer, but we generally find that that's a price point that is fair to both sides. It's a good price for the grocer to move items that may not be selling at full retail price, and a good deal for consumers to access food at a discount. So it's a nice win-win for both sides.
All right, so we're talking summer barbecues, not only for the weekend, but throughout the season. A lot of fresh produce, a lot of grilling meats. Are these types of some of the types of foods then that can be found on this app?
Yeah, a lot of our grocers, most of our grocers will list fresh food like produce in our produce boxes. So that can be a $5 box of mixed loose produce or just meat items discounted typically around 50%. And so it's a great way to access that fresh food at a discount because those are often items that a grocer may have in surplus or may have nearing expiration that they can put on our app to make available.
How can shoppers be ensured that the quality and freshness is good enough?
Yeah, so grocers are still paying attention to the quality of the food, and they want to make sure the food is fresh and safe to eat. And so they'll do their own due diligence on checking the quality of food, just like they would for a full price retail experience. And if anyone's dissatisfied with that quality, they can request a refund through the app. So it's a pretty seamless process, but we find the vast majority of our purchases, the customers are quite happy with the products they're getting.
Yeah, it seems like a win-win for both grocer and consumers trying not to waste food. How significant is food waste? What kind of problem are we looking at?
Food waste is pretty substantial. Estimates are that about 30 to 40% of all food that is produced goes to waste. So it's a huge amount of food waste. And for folks in the Charlotte area, if you don't see your local store on the platform, feel free to ask them and say, hey, check out Flash Food. We've heard about it. It's a great way for you as the grocer to sell your products. Or just reach out to us and give your favorite store's name to us, and we can reach out and try to get them on.
And any other tips or strategies for folks wanting to maximize their savings by using this app?
Yeah, just check it regularly. The stores will change what's available on a daily basis. And so if you don't see what you want today, you can always check back tomorrow and see if the selection's better. It's really dependent on what the store has available nearing its expiration date or in surplus. So if you don't see what you like today, check out tomorrow and you might like it better.
All right. Any more information you need to pass along to our viewers this morning?
Just check out the App Store to download Flash Food. Look for your local stores. And if you don't see it on there, feel free to send us a note or tell them to reach out to us directly.
All right. Tyler Simmons from Flash Food, another tool that we can use as far as finding those extra savings where we can. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks so much. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th to you. Thanks.
Bye.
All right, so hopefully I'm going to look at it and download that app and see what I can find as far as savings. Hopefully Harris Teeter's on there, right? Yeah. Right now, let's go back to Washington D.C. because Minority Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. It doesn't look like he's about to end his remarks anytime soon as the House continues the big beautiful bill debate. Let's listen in on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Detriment of others. But every single state that suffered from the Republican effort, Mr. Speaker, under Donald Trump's presidency in 2017 to decimate the state and local tax deduction, every single state is a donor state, sends more money to the federal government than we ever get back in return. A donor state. Some people in this town running around misrepresenting the facts. We're okay to be a donor state, but don't lie to the American people about the reality of the state and local tax deduction. And then you have this extraordinary statement on May 8th, big talk, no action. I guess in Texas they say all hat, no cattle. And so that brings us to this letter that was written prolific writers. Mr. Speaker, in the House Republican Conference, on June 6th, I'm really confused by this combination of this particular letter, followed by an interesting statement that was made after the Senate passed Donald Trump's One Big Ugly Bill by Lisa Murkowski. And maybe somebody, Mr. Speaker, can help me reconcile these statements. Because all of us in the House and in the Senate were independently elected to stand up on behalf of our constituents in the chambers that we serve in. I'm going to get back to that point momentarily. So in the House, we passed this One Big Ugly Bill initially in late May. It devastated Medicaid, devastated nutritional assistance, devastated the clean energy economy that actually is benefiting red state after red state after red state in the United States of America. And so, members of the House Republican Conference wrote to Majority Leader Thune and Chairman Crapo. This is after passing a bill in the House of Representatives that devastated the clean energy tax cuts that they are talking about in this letter on June 6th. It says, as members of the House Republican Conference, we write to express our continued support for common sense energy policy and to urge the Senate to substantively and strategically improve clean energy tax credit provisions included in the House-passed reconciliation bill. I mean, what is happening right now? Maybe I don't understand the legislative process. So in this letter, it goes on to say, in relationship to a bill that every single signatory signed and voted for. Our position has always been that the energy tax code should be modernized in a way that promotes fiscal responsibility and business certainty. Fully realizing that balance requires improvements to the House-passed version of H.R. 1. We believe that the Senate now has a critical opportunity to restore common sense and deliver a truly pro-energy growth final bill that protects taxpayers while also unleashing the potential of U.S. energy producers, manufacturers, and workers. In other words, every single one of these signatories, Jen Kiggins, Brian Fitzpatrick, Juan Ciscomani, Nick LaLota, Mike Lawler, Andrew Garbarino, Don Bacon, Mark Amadei, Gabe Evans, Young Kim, David Valadeo, Rob Bresnahan, and Thomas H. Kane, Jr. Every single one of these signatories voted for a House bill that undermined the clean energy economy, noted that it would hurt their own constituents, voted for the bill anyway, and then begged the Senate to make a difference. That's not how we should be legislating in the United States House of Representatives. That's not how you legislate, particularly when Every single House Democrat voted against the bill. It left the House, limped out of the House by a single vote. So every single signatory on this letter could have stopped the bill. That you yourself, Mr. Speaker, indicated the signatories of this letter damaged the very thing they claim to be fighting for. I'm confused, perplexed, flummoxed at what the heck is going on. Extraordinary. I mean, I'm just overwhelmed by the amount of correspondence. I had to just pick out the ones that were most extraordinary to make sure that they were entered into the record. The most recent one on the subject of Medicaid was written on June 24th. It was directed to the Honorable John Thune, Majority Leader of the United States Senate, the Honorable Mike Johnson, Mr. Speaker, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. I think it had, by my count, 16 members. No surprise, y'all. It was authored by David Valadao. I mean, these letters can make up a book, Mr. Speaker. David Valadao, Juan Ciscomani, Rob Bresnahan. Mr. Speaker, these are just facts. Chuck Edwards, Young Kim, Andrew Garbarino, Mike Lawler, Jen Kiggins, the gang is all here again. Jeff Van Drew, Don Bacon, Dan Newhouse, Zach Nunn, Robert J. Whitman, Nicole Maliotakis, Marionette J. Miller Meeks, and Jeff Hurd. 16 members, Mr. Speaker, of the House Republican Conference. In a letter written to you, Mr. Speaker, and the Honorable John Thune, Majority Leader of the United States Senate, on June 24th, and here's the most extraordinary statement that was written in this letter. In the second to last paragraph, I think we call that the penultimate paragraph. In the second to last paragraph, it says, protecting Medicaid is essential for the vulnerable constituents we were elected to represent. Therefore, we cannot support a final bill that threatens access to coverage or jeopardizes the stability of our hospitals and providers. Mr. Speaker, 16 members of the House Republican Conference, who just a few days ago made clear on the record that they will not support devastating cuts to Medicaid. 16 members. All we need, Mr. Speaker, are 4 Republicans from this group to join us, and we can stop these devastating cuts to Medicaid. Join us. Join us. Join us. We welcome you with open arms. into the warm embrace of members of Congress who are here to protect the health care of the American people. Just for y'all, we welcome you with open arms into the warm embrace of members of Congress determined to protect the health care of the American people.
It's four.
All we need are four. And so many of y'all are on record. So as I conclude this section of this particular presentation, and we still got some ground to cover, we're going to continue as House Democrats to take our sweet time on behalf of the American people, because the issues are too significant to ever walk away from. I just want to turn to a statement that was issued by Senator Lisa Murkowski. I want to give some love to the other side of the Capitol. And again, Mr. Speaker, these are just the words that were issued. I'm not even trying to characterize the words. But the American people need to hear these words from the people that were sent to Congress to protect their interests. Senator Lisa Murkowski says this was one of the hardest votes I have taken during my time in the Senate. Let me just editorialize there briefly. This should not be a hard vote, Senator Murkowski. This should be a hell no vote on behalf of the people you were sent to Washington to represent. It's a hell no vote for us because we're standing up on behalf of the American people. It should be a hell no vote. But, Mr. Speaker, these are the words.
All right, with that video pause, we're going to take this opportunity here to bring you in on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, just past 10 a.m. on July 3rd, Thursday. Long weekend for a lot of folks. Welcome to Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus, where we bring you the live news feeds as they're happening as best as we can, because sometimes it is a slow news day. Let's just be frank. But right now, on this day before July 4th, where America is going to celebrate 250 years of its independence, we are looking at this one big, beautiful bill that has been up and down across the aisle and back again. And so we do know overnight leaders from both sides of the aisle have been working hard. House Speaker Johnson speaking to folks in his office all throughout the night. Same for Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, that you saw there on the floor. He started the debate here around 5 o'clock this morning, trying to just hold off on passing the bill, or putting it up to a vote, I should say, with the Trump administration hoping to get this voted in and passed by the end of day before the holiday. It is a self-imposed deadline, nothing hardcore for you. But with that in mind, we are expecting a final vote, at least sometime, to be put for a final vote sometime today. Mr. Jeffries speaking again now over 4 hours, as we're just looking in here with everyone in the House just waiting for him to wrap things up, and then the House will put that to a final vote. I look at this, the people behind him, because, you can only look at politicians do their thing and debating on the Senate or House floor for so long. But you look at this and you look at the front row and you think, I hope no one falls asleep. Right, Carlene?
If it's been going since 5 a.m., and he's been going since 5 a.m. They've been going at it since yesterday.
Right.
Like you're running on
fumes.
Fumes and, Diet Coke for me. Like,
cappuccinos for me.
Yeah.
Something, but you know what now? Now that I said that you don't want to be in the front row behind Speaker Jeffries, but these are actually 4 different people.
Yeah.
4 different lawmakers behind him, because about half an hour ago, those were 4 different faces, now that I recall, if you've been watching this. You just think, I'm on C-SPAN the whole time. This is a big bill
that
people...
streamed a lot of places here.
And people are looking in at any given moment. So if you sit in the row behind the speaker...
Stay awake, stay alive, stay alert.
Yep. Don't look down on your phone. Don't make jokes. I saw in the second row, a couple people were trying to make some jokes or trying to have
Chit-chat.
their private kikis, little convos back there. But anyway, no disrespect to Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who has been reading from now another binder.
Yeah.
Is the note we got. He opened up his next binder. That was about half an hour ago. So as he holds the floor and speaking against the bill now for up to 4 hours. Actually, I'm looking at a note. Looks like 5 hours. 5 hours. He started at 5.
He started at 5.
See, I'm getting lost in the House loop here. 5+ hours now to delay the vote for one big beautiful bill. Let's go ahead and listen in. It is what is happening there in D.C. This is Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Up for what is right and stand up for what is right in the chamber that we serve in. That's what we should all be doing. And so our House Republican colleagues, Mr. Speaker, have one last opportunity to join us as Democrats. Every single Democrat who's going to stand up and protect the health care of the American people. Stand up and protect the nutritional assistance of the American people. Stand up and protect our farmers. Stand up and protect our veterans. Stand up and protect the clean energy economy. Stand up to protect our public schools. Every single one of my House Republican colleagues have the opportunity now in this chamber, not the other chamber, in this chamber, to join us as Democrats and stand up for what is right. The eyes of America are watching. Started this process, Mr. Speaker, 3:28 in the morning, this debate. Took to the House floor, maybe an hour and a half after that. And we still have a lot to say. On behalf of the American people. For such a time as this, every single one of us have an opportunity to stand up for what is right here in the United States of America. I want to speak for just a few moments about some of the people who've been targeted in a callous way by this administration. Some of the stories that need to be told on behalf of the American people. I mentioned, of course, Mr. Speaker, throughout this process, we have been thankful for the stories shared by everyday Americans who went to bed last night fearing the worst and have woken up this morning horrified by Donald Trump's one big ugly bill that will hurt everyday Americans and rewards billionaires with massive
All right, we're just going to change the feed here real quick and get you back to a live picture.
social safety net and explode our nation's debt. And so I want to tell a few stories on behalf of our nation's veterans who've also written to us to share their concerns with this one big ugly bill. Victoria from Arizona wrote to us, Mr. Speaker, said, "My husband and I are patriots. We are both Army veterans who were disabled as a result of our service. We have 5 children and run a small electrical contracting business. We live on a fixed income and, like most families, have struggled with rising costs. One of our sons is adopted. He is a wonderful, loving 7-year-old who has autism and ADHD. He qualifies for Medicaid because he was adopted, and it has been the saving grace for his health and well-being. Medicaid is the reason we were able to get his formal diagnosis of his autism and ADHD. It also covers his regular doctor's visits and dental care. We use Medicaid to access in-home therapy for him, and it was a huge help. Slashing Medicaid will have especially dire consequences for rural communities like ours. Forcing hospitals to close. Health resources are already slim in our area. And in this Army veteran rights, President Trump is causing enormous stress and hardship for families like mine. He and his billionaire friends don't need more tax breaks. It's outrageous. The last thing we should even be considering is cutting Medicaid. These programs are lifelines. We agree with you, Victoria. She lives in Arizona's 6th Congressional District. Mr. Speaker, currently represented by Congressman Juan Ciscomani. Troy, another veteran, lives in California, Mr. Speaker. Lives in a district currently represented by Jay Obernolte. That's California's 23rd congressional district, I believe. He writes to us and says, "I was in the U.S. Army and went to Kosovo in 2001, Iraq in 2003, and 2005. I depend on the VA as I am too disabled to work. I depend on VA health care. My children are now on Medicaid. I have worked from when I was 14 years old to 42. I am suffering from long COVID. And until I can return to work, I need help from the American people. I have had your backs. Time for you to cover my back. Writes Troy. Mr. Speaker, I need NIH's help. Now is the time to stand up for all Americans. Stop the assault on the VA, NIH, Medicaid, and the rest of Americans. We agree with you, Troy. It's time to stop the assault on the American people. Stop the assault that is represented in this one big, ugly bill. Christy, another veteran, wrote to us and says, I was drafted in 1970. My choice was incarceration or militarization. So I enlisted in the Navy and became a Navy corpsman serving on the USS Long Beach, CGN 9, and her Marine detachment, where I was assigned to the 3rd Marines.
All right, everyone, about 10:15 right now. I'm going to switch gears just for a moment because a lot of people in Savannah are neighbors to the south, where a lot of people from the Carolinas, of course, vacation, and coming up on the holiday weekend would be interested in what's happening there. There was a shooting at Oglethorpe Mall in Savannah yesterday. The DA in Chatham County now holding a press conference at this moment. Several people were hurt, 3 of them shot. Let's go ahead and listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
I am not going to comment on the facts, the identity of those involved, or the specific details of the investigation because I understand that that is not my role and the investigation is not complete. And as your prosecutor, it would be premature for me to rush to judgment. But what I can say is that this was deliberate and coordinated. And because it impacted our community as a whole, I am here to make a clarion call to our community for community response. What I am saying is that somebody knew that those young people had guns before they came to Oglethorpe Mall. Somebody in this community knew that that was going to happen. Somebody in this community knows the people who are involved, even though they haven't been publicly identified yet. And what I'm saying is that our best chance at prevention is collective, collaborative community action. And I'm saying that with all the sensitivity in the world, because as your district attorney and the top prosecutor of this county, what you need to know is that by the time a shooting like this happens in our community, it is far too late. So what I'm saying to the members of our community is that we need to get a grip on our young people before they get a grip on guns. These guns and weapons in our community did not just appear. What I'm saying to our community is that we have to reconcile America's love affair with firearms and weapons. You cannot both claim that you have and embrace a right to carry firearms when our children are shooting each other in the face in Ellis Square and at Oglethorpe Mall and in the streets in the Barrows and in the 30s. We have to reconcile the fact that our community nationwide, and yes, here in Savannah, has a problem with gun violence. And until we decide as a collective community that we will do everything we can to take guns out of the hands of young people, we will continue to see this violence. What most people don't know is that prosecutors know have a season that they call the dog days of summer. What we know as police and prosecutors is that the index and occurrence of violence increases drastically in summer months. And we see it more in domestic violence and in public shootings. I will remind you that there were a few years ago, there were public shootings down on River Street during the 4th of July celebration. During the summer, we had shootings on Avery Street and throughout our town. But I want to make a clarion call to our community, because this incident at Oglethorpe Mall can't just be the most recent shooting. Unless and until we take action to do something different and shift the mindset, unless and until we take action to do something preventative before our kids get their hands on guns and firearms, unless we collectively put our political differences aside and intervene early, we will continue to see cycles of violence in our community. And that's something, ladies and gentlemen, that's an issue not just for law enforcement, not just for your DA, not just for your electeds. It is an issue for you as well. To the community and everyone under the sound of my voice, you can help us by denouncing gun violence. You can help us by denouncing snitch culture, which prevents us from bringing people to justice. You can help us by alerting us when you are aware that there's a firearm in the hands of somebody who should not have it. We need your help, because it does take a village. The time has come and the hour is long spent for us to quibble over small political differences and personality conflicts. The time has come for us to stand together, and not just as law enforcement, but as a collective community, to say no more violence in our community, no more guns in our community. We need to support the efforts of your elected officials, but we also need to act. As your district attorney, I am often asked to attend rallies and protests to end a number of different causes. I have attended in the past, and I will continue to do the same. But as your district attorney, I'm telling you, I am tired of making noise and doing nothing. I am calling on every teacher, every coach, every parent, every mentor, every Greek letter organization, every social organization, the Chamber of Commerce, and everyone in every area, because this is an all-hands-on-deck situation. Unless and until we make both that shift in mindset and the investment, there will be no winners in gun violence in Chatham County. And so everybody has to put not only their money, but their knowledge and their service where their mouth is. It is easy, too easy, to comment on community events on Facebook. If you have an issue, you should come with a solution. My door and my office stands ready to accept your partnership, because you can keep your complaints. If you're not acting, you can keep your complaints. This is a clarion call, not just because it must be done, but because it can be done. I'm not going to make you any false promises. Many of you will ask me what I will do, how I will judge the evidence, and what I'm going to do next. I'll tell you that it's premature for a prosecutor to project an outcome in a case, because I have to review cases as they are presented to me. But I can tell you, I can assure you, that we will resolve this case as swiftly as possible, with all of the laws, techniques, and strategies that are available to us, because we know how important this is to you. But rest assured, even though this is how we handle all gun charges in our office. Even though with every shooting, every public shooting, no matter where it takes place or who it takes place in between, our office's policy is to add firearms charges, whether it's possession of a firearm by a convicted felon or possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. Because our lawmakers have said that this is so important to them that they put these laws in place to add an additional 5-year penalty on top of whatever the penalty or punishment will be imposed for the underlying offense. These are the legal tools and strategies that we plan to employ whenever these individuals are captured. But I want to impress upon you that you should make no mistake that we will prosecute this case and the individuals involved to the fullest extent of the law. But I also expect to see community action and change, and I'm willing to lead the charge on that, because these are not law enforcement problems, they are not prosecutor problems, they're not even mayor problems, these are community problems. Now that I've expressed to you what my legal intention is, I'm going to share with you my personal opinion. What we need right now, in this moment, not just the people on the steps, Jenny Parker, but what our community needs most is unity, peace, order, prevention, and a collective consciousness that the war on our citizens and innocent bystanders must end. I'm telling you that as your prosecutor, I want as much heat, as much resolve, and as much action put behind this as there was, and as much commitment as there was to the war on drugs in the 80s and in the 90s. We need to announce a war on gun violence, and we need to take all-out measures to do so. As your district attorney and the top prosecutor for this office, I respect everyone's rights to believe what they believe, to have a God they name, to have no God at all. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that what I think we need right now is prayer for our law enforcement, prayer for public safety, prayers to cover our youth so that their lives are not cut short by senseless violence. We need calls for collaboration. We need prayers for our government and everyone who is responsible for making any decision in this process. I have asked members of our faith community to offer public prayer on those issues, and some of them have joined me today and are on the steps of this courthouse. Let that be a signal and reminder to you that we not only need the protection of the shield, the power of the prison, we also need hearts of compassion and the help and assistance of every public servant in every capacity across this county. And I will say, just like the voting process, if you don't vote, you can't complain. And right now, if you don't get involved and if you don't act, stay silent. We are not the only first responders, so are you. And I expect everyone in our community, I hope and I pray that everyone in our community will show up, show out, and make a loud statement against gun violence in Chatham County. I'm going to end my comments here and take questions from the media. And after I do that, the call to prayer will be made from this podium.
Mr. Attorney, I know that you can't talk about specifics with this case, but a lot of people, just even with business owners we interviewed, people out in the parking lot said the words gang violence. Is that a problem in our city, in our county? Is that something that y'all are looking into with this case? I know you can't talk prematurely, but can you answer that?
What is your name?
Sarah Smith.
Sarah, the policy of my office is to leave no stone unturned. If there is gang involvement, we will charge it. That will heavily depend on what's presented to us once this investigation is complete. But Sarah, did I get it right? What I want to add to that is that a wise person once told me that we are more interested in labels than we are with symptoms. And whether you call it gang violence or gun violence, in America in general and in this county, we have too many guns in the hands of young folk. You can call that what you want to, but that's how I describe it. And that's how we have to attack it.
I think Attorney Jones, you mentioned that you had several prosecutors on the ground last night assisting. What was their role and what were they looking for while they were at the Oval Court Mall in the aftermath?
I'll let you hear from them because I believe and I trust my staff. And the best thing to do is to refer to those who were the boots on the ground. As their leader, I can tell you that this is not the first crime scene they've gone to. These are the most talented and seasoned prosecutors in our office. And at this point, their goal is to assist law enforcement and to be supportive in the collection of evidence and to answer questions that officers and law enforcement might have for us during their investigation. But I want to call to this podium Mr. Christian Stahl and Ms. Jenny Parker. They don't like to be seen, but the reason you need to see them is because under my direction, they responded to that scene immediately and were there until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I will let them speak to that.
Good morning. To answer your question directly, Ms. Parker and I arrived on scene probably within 30 to 40 minutes after the event took place. When we're called out by when we're called out by the district attorney to go to any major crime, whether it's a homicide, mass shooting, anything that is at a high profile, we are told to go out there to it. Our job is to assist law enforcement, not to interfere with the investigation, because that's not what we do. Our job is to simply help and aid in the investigation as much as we can on legal issues, because we look at it in a different place. We look at it to prepare for a grand jury and for a trial, and so we have a different look, and there's certain things that we can assist on the legal side of it.
I know you can't get into specifics, but can you give us an example of what you mean by legal issues? Can you take that room? Sorry.
Just a very simple example of something that may come up is a question about whether a search warrant is needed to search a certain area or person, and that's something that we can give legal advice on, and any other legal issue that comes up. For example, sometimes there are specific laws to deal with juveniles and how juveniles are dealt with, and we can provide advice on that. Anything that happens to come up.
Is that something y'all provided advice on? I know some of the victims involved, one of them was a juvenile, 2 were young adults. That's something y'all...
I can't comment on this specific case, but those are just 2 examples that come up fairly regularly.
District Attorney Jones, there have been a number of these shootings in recent history, and this is the first time, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time that you have had a press conference this soon after something like this. Why did you feel it was so important? What was it about this shooting that made you feel so empowered to speak today?
I'm aware that in the summer, our young people go to Oval Court Mall. It's a place my kids go all the time. One of the images that sticks with me that's related to this incident is, you know, a lot of these, some videos have been leaked on the internet that what I viewed did not come from law enforcement. But one of the images that I saw was blood on the ground in a mall, and I know that mall like the back of my hand. But one of the things that was most powerful for me is that there was a young boy. He had to be in single digits, about 8 or 9 years old. I hate to say that I am in no way desensitized to crime and violence, because you know that we deal with these kinds of shootings every day. But how could you not feel compelled to make a public statement when you see images like that? That image kept me up all night last night, as I'm sure it probably did for so many other people, because that's our future. And if we don't do something now, if we don't take action now, then we are going to continue to see young boys and elderly people, like those people at the mall yesterday, under attack. What's different for me is that this is a visible demonstration of what you have heard me say over the past 5 years. Crime is everybody's issue. We've become desensitized to shootings that take place on Burroughs Avenue and in the 30s. We become desensitized to those things, but when we have shootings that involve the most vulnerable segments of our community, the most innocent segments of our community, not only does it compel me to come out and make a press statement, it compels me to do what I'm about to do, which is to call on the pillars in this community, not to talk, but to act. Because without intervention, it's going to get worse. We are entering our 4th of July holiday weekend. And it is my desire, hope, and prayer that all of our citizens and all of our visitors who have decided to make this their destination, that they can do so without being exposed to unnecessary violence. That's why this is different. We have seen a shooting on the 4th of July shooting on River Street before, and we don't need to see it again. That's how this is different. It doesn't make it any more important than any other case we handle. But what it does say is that the index of risk and danger to our community and to our tourists and visitors, particularly on this holiday weekend, means that we need to uptick our awareness, our attention, our call to action, and we need to become more organized and collective than the shooters that we're trying to detain and capture. That's what I'm saying. That's why this is important. It's always important. But to answer your question, that's why we're here today.
To kind of bounce off of Sarah's question, there's a hesitation at times with elected officials here in Chatham County to say whether or not Savannah-Chatham County has a gang problem. Last night, a high-level law enforcement source confirmed to us that this was a gang shooting. You know, I know you said earlier that it really doesn't matter what it's called, but for a lot of folks, they see it as nobody really wants to say what's actually happening. Is there a gang problem in Savannah-Chatham County?
Let me say this, I don't fault those leaders, and I can't blame them. I don't know why or how they describe the incidents that happen in our city. But one of the reasons there is confusion about whether or not there is or is not a gang problem is because we have a lack of data culture that collects evidence and intelligence about what gangs are doing, where they're gathering, what their next move is. We need to bring the criminal justice system into the new age of technology and data so that we can collect information about what truly is or is not happening. I'm not an anecdotal speaker. I'm not going to stand here for political gain or affluence or affiliation and send a dog whistle that there is a gang problem or there's not a gang problem. But what I can tell you as a district attorney is that there are laws on the books to address it. And if the evidence fits those statutes, those charges will be filed.
District Attorney, could you more specificity on what type of political and community action you want to follow with this?
Sure. These incidents don't take place in a vacuum. The people who are involved in this incident, they have friends, they have parents. Oftentimes, their families are members of our local churches. People are more likely to communicate issues to faith leaders and teachers and social workers and all those kinds of people before it ever becomes a case and before law enforcement ever starts investigating. What I'm saying is that we need to have collective and community conversations instead of debates about what is really happening in our communities. This is not a political problem, it's a people problem, and it's going to take people to solve it. I am open to town halls, open table conversations and discourse. I have communicated during every press conference I've ever done that my office stands open to answer questions from citizens. But I can also say that as many public events and town hall events as we have done about domestic violence and violence against the youth or elder abuse or whatever the case may be, we get the same 20% of people to show up to these conversations, but we don't get the community to turn out. When we invite you to an event or a conversation, come out. Don't come see me on Facebook. I'm very easy to find. And if you want to talk to me, and you want to talk to our other electeds, let's have the kitchen table conversations that we need to have, that break mindsets and strongholds, that call us to agree and to collaborate. And so that's what I'm asking the community to do. That's what I envision for Savannah and Chatham County. And that's what I hope people will feel and respond to after listening to this press conference today. I haven't decided yet when I'll have a town hall event on community shootings, on gang violence, police activity, whatever the case might be. But I can tell you I'm open to doing it. I want to see fewer citizens commenting on Facebook and Instagram and social media, and I want you to show up at the town hall. Show up here. Show up at 133 Montgomery. If you believe that your position is that important, because what you should know is that we want to hear you. We want to hear what you have to add. Show up in court when you get a subpoena notice. Show up in court when we ask you to come for jury duty. Show up in court when you're asked to come and testify at trial. Show up in court. And what we need to do as law enforcement and elected officials is that we need to, but if we are going to invite them into this discourse to participate, we need to make them feel safe. Our elected officials need to be thinking about a way to protect witnesses who come forward, rather than exposing them to additional danger, as you have seen in other cases prosecuted around this nation. We have no mechanism in our county for witness protection. We have not created an incentive for people to come forward. Let's think collectively about strategies that we can implement, not just to prosecute, but also to prevent. That's what I'm hoping will happen. Okay. Without there being no more questions, I am going to ask representatives from our community to offer public prayer for our city, our citizens, our county, our youth, and our government.
Andre Osborne, ANDRE-OSBORNE. In offering prayer for peace and protection with the onset of community violence, we pray today. Heavenly Father, we come before you with heavy hearts burdened by the violence and unrest plaguing our communities. But we stand on the truth of your word, believing that you are the God who heals, restores, and protects. Your word declares in Psalm 46:1 that you are a refuge and a strength, a help in trouble. So be our refuge now. Cover our streets, our neighborhoods, and our homes with your divine protection. We know in Isaiah 60:18 that Your word says violence shall no longer be heard in your land, neither wasting nor destruction within your borders, but you shall...
You've been watching live right now, a live press conference out of Savannah, Georgia, where Shalina Cook Jones, the county district attorney there, speaking out after a shooting that occurred at Oglethorpe Mall yesterday. Obviously passionate and saying to the community, put your money, your service, your time, your conversation where your mouth is and stop popping off on social media. That is a message that can be shared and empathized with across many cities, including Charlotte as well. So definitely one of those messages and themes that we have been seeing: youth violence, obviously unnecessary gang violence, and guns in the hands of the wrong people, and certainly too young to be involved with that. So it does take a village, takes a family, and all of that to put forth any effort in curbing youth violence. Well, it does look like House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is going to be coming up on 6 hours, speaking on the House floor because he is trying to delay the vote for the bill that has been dubbed One Big Beautiful Bill. The debate continues. He does have an unlimited time as Minority Leader, so after this, whenever he ends his speech, the vote will be put up to a final vote for the House to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill. In the meantime, let's go ahead and listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
That serve in this Congress, no one more constitutional and more scholarly than my friend and colleague, the top Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, Jamie Raskin, who continues to lead the charge, standing up for the Constitution here in the United States of America. But as I read the Declaration of Independence, there seem to be two parts to it. There's the aspirational part, Mr. Speaker, of the Declaration of Independence. Of course, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We understand that now in a more enlightened way: all men, all women, all children, all of God's children created equally. That they are entitled to certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so we spent a little time talking about what that could look like, our commitment to bringing about the American dream, the good life for every single person in this country, everybody. Work hard, play by the rules. You should be able to afford the good life in the United States of America. That's what we're going to continue to work on. Bring the American dream to life, consistent with that aspirational part of the Declaration of Independence: the life, the liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But then, as far as I can tell, there was also a second interesting part of the Declaration. It was the indictment against the king. And I commend everyone in this chamber, all of the American people who may be observing the proceedings in the House of Representatives, particularly as we approach July 4th, to read that Declaration of Independence. Perhaps I may even enter it into the record later on today. Because we're here, Mr. Speaker, to take our sweet time on behalf of the American people, to make sure as best we can, to cover all of the things that as Democrats we're fighting hard to defend during this extraordinary moment of assault directed at the American people as a result of this one big, ugly bill that will hurt everyday Americans in order to reward billionaires with massive tax breaks and then exploding the deficit and the debt in ways that will jeopardize the future of our children and our grandchildren. But the aspirational part of the Declaration of Independence, of course, that is often famously quoted. But then if you read other parts of the Declaration of Independence, extraordinarily written document, it reads like an indictment against the extremism of the king. It reads like an indictment against the kings. I think of King George. It reads like an indictment against King George's flood the zone strategy. It reads like an indictment against King George's shock and awe strategy. It reads like an indictment against what I think may have been called Project 1775, which is what brought us to Project 1776. And you look at this indictment, and one of the things it alludes to, it talks about, is the notion of the king's effort to stop the assimilation of people from other parts of the world into the United States of America. So we understand that from the very beginning of this great country, there was a recognition, of course, of the importance of immigration to the success and vitality of the United States of America. And let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, so there's no misrepresentation. As House Democrats, we understand the importance, the urgency of securing the border. We believe that our immigration system is broken and that it should be fixed in a comprehensive and bipartisan way. So many leaders in that effort, so many big ideas were willing to partner in a bipartisan way. Pramila Jayapal, Linda Sanchez, Adriano Espaillat, Tom Suozzi, so many others. Veronica Escobar, we want to partner to fix our broken immigration system in a bipartisan and comprehensive way, secure our border. But we're also going to make sure we stand up for our nation's heritage, a nation of immigrants, which continues to this very day. It's an important part of American exceptionalism, and as far as I can tell, in my reading of the original document, the writings of the founders of this great country, the framers of the Constitution, they recognized it from the very beginning. They weren't perfect. We didn't have a perfect start. But of course, as the preamble to the United States Constitution set forth, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Mr. Speaker, we've been set on this magical course, our march toward a more perfect union. And the immigration journey has always been an important part of the American journey. That's why it's heartbreaking to see some of the things that are happening in the country right now. The targeting in such an extraordinary way of law-abiding immigrant families, including American citizens. How can this be in the United States of America? Some people who might suggest that we should stay away from these stories. No, I'm going to lean into this part of the American journey because we support our heritage as a nation of immigrants. And we're going to stand up for dreamers, stand up for farm workers, stand up for law-abiding immigrant families all across this country. U.S. citizen children have been deported, Mr. Speaker. Is this who we've become in the United States of America? How can this be? This is extraordinary. 2-year-old American named Manu Borges Santos was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in September of 2022. February, she was taken into custody in Florida alongside her mother and father, both of whom were undocumented. And as a result of this situation, 2-year-old Manu was deported to Brazil. Because of the Trump administration, Manu, a U.S. citizen, only 2 years old, is now effectively stateless. Manu is not a citizen or resident of Brazil. This is a 2-year-old girl, an American citizen. Removed from her homeland, but can't get legal status in her parents' ancestral home. And as a result of her inability to get citizenship down in South America, because she's an American citizen, she has no right to routine pediatric checkups, even though Brazil has a public health system, cannot easily enroll in daycare, and finds herself in an untenable situation. I think we are better than this. We've got to find a better way, because I thought this administration promised, Mr. Speaker, to target violent felons, not 2-year-old American citizens. That's unacceptable, as far as I can tell, in the United States of America. Target violent felons all you want. We support that. They should be deported. But why are resources being spent targeting 2-year-old American children? That's not American. And I don't believe the American people support that. Mr. Speaker, that's not what this country should be all about. Manu wasn't the only one. the only American citizen who's been targeted by the deportation machine, a deportation machine that will be unleashed on steroids by this one big ugly bill. We know that, in fact, is the case. That's not hyperbole. It's not a hypothetical. It's not hype. J.D. Vance told us the other day, don't worry about the cuts to Medicaid. Don't worry about the fact that this is the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Don't worry about the fact that millions of Americans, more than 17 million Americans, will lose their health care, and many more will experience higher premiums, copays, and deductibles, whose life will measurably get worse as a result of this one big.
And you've been watching House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries hold the floor there in the House after his remarks that he will hopefully wrap up at some point today. That's the only thing that needs to be done before that final vote can be held for